I'm going to do something dangerous today. I'm feeling dangerous. I clearly am. I'm wearing a green jersey with the green background. I'm going to tell you about my addiction. These. Now, I got this bag 3 days ago from my parents. Sent me like a care package for Valentine's Day. Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get one for freaking President's Day. They celebrate every holiday, and they're very wholesome and nice. And this was included. Giant bag of chocolate turtles. 3 days ago. It's gone. It didn't even leave the room. It sat right there. It was breakfast, lunch, dinner, second breakfast, whatever else the hobbits were eating on their way out of the Shire. I don't really remember all of the things that Pippin and Merry were talking about, but I ate it. I ate it so quickly that I'm kind of worried for my ability to bounce back from that, because I don't want to read the actual the stats on the back of the bag where it tells you like how much is in a serving, but then it tells you, oh, this bag is 87 serving sizes. I don't want to read that, but I'm worried. So if I end up in the hospital, it was chocolate turtles, and if I ever get near them again, I think I'm just going to start scratching my arm, and I might break through the glass or attempt to like break my thumb to get more chocolate turtles. I don't think there's something in the world that I will run through faster than chocolate turtles. Maybe Football Manager. But the other dangerous thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to go against the Bundesliga fans, which normally is a death sentence. But I want you to hear me out on this, because you might have noticed that the Bundesliga fans are protesting everything. They're protesting all over the place. They've done a bunch of incredibly fun things that I've thoroughly enjoyed. First, they threw chocolate coins in the field, which is interesting because when you learn what they're protesting something that has to do with taking foreign money, essentially, so that, have your coins. But the best part about the chocolate coins is it's in this match between Bochum and Union Berlin. And the winger, Asano, for Bochum actually just picks up a chocolate coin and just eats it during the match. Like, I don't know if that's the best mid-match fuel, but maybe the whole strategy here is it's a dual-wielding thing where not only are you protesting the Bundesliga, but you're properly fueling your players, in which case that is genius. I would be surprised if Asano was the only person that was eating this. Given my history with the chocolate turtles, I probably would have been going around the entire field on my hands and knees, eating each one, just devouring them, gold and all. Because the gold actually adds a nice little salt content. This isn't the only bit of protesting they've done. They've had these giant banners just at the Dortmund game. I don't know what they say because I don't speak German. I'm just assuming there's something more prevalent than like, where's the bathroom? They've had toy cars in various forms. So we had tennis balls and remote control cars just going around in the field. The point of these protests is kind of to delay the match as long as possible. So they're just finding creative ways to do that. They got particularly creative, and this is my personal favorite. They attached flares to the toy cars, and then some poor stadium attendant has to try and run around and attempt to kick the toy cars. I don't think he's aware of the fact that, unlike the actual match, you can use your hands here, so he can just pick up the toy cars, but maybe he's trying out for the team, and in which case, we support our boy. Men support men, so I'm really excited for him, and I think he's got great form. Better finishing than Harry Kane in the match that happened today, that's for sure. Even though Harry Kane did score a goal, that's just a very Harry Kane special. They've been throwing black tennis balls on the field. Didn't even know that was a thing. Don't know how you get such a large supply of black tennis balls. Maybe you have a contact with one of the producers, but they got a bunch of black tennis balls and threw them on the field. I mean, there's been crazy things like 20, 30 minutes of stoppage time because you have to take a really long time to try and clear the field off, and the whole point is the fan groups are really trying to make it as miserable as possible for the league to continue. And all of this protesting is happening over something that honestly I find very surprising that they're protesting. And I'm really scared to say that because 99.99% of the time, I am ride or die with the Bundesliga and its structure and its fans because it makes complete sense to me. They have the 50+1 rule, which is the 50% plus one share of the club has to be owned by the fans, which means there is not a Manchester City. There is not a PSG where there is a A domineering owner that's able to make decisions separate from the fans. It means that the fans have a say, at least nominally, they have the final say on what's going to happen with the club. They have the majority of the club under their ownership. I love that. And I love the fact that Bundesliga fans protested so hard that they stopped playing Monday matches. They kept the matches on the weekend so that fans could participate in their normal fan rituals. Last Monday match was played like 2 years ago, and they protested, and the Monday matches went away. I love all of that stuff. What they're protesting now feels a little, I don't want to say hypocritical. I don't want to say hypocritical because I am all for the things that they typically like to protest for, but I just want to point a few things out. So the top two divisions in Germany, Bundesliga and the Zweite Bundesliga, right? They vote in a block to sell their media rights, right? We're talking about the same thing everybody's always blowing smoke about, the Premier League with their media rights and their freaking billions of dollars that they're rolling in so that they can spend more, Bournemouth is spending more money than Real Madrid or whatever. That is what these top two divisions are getting together to sell. Now, obviously, you sell the media rights to foreign companies, but what they recently voted on, like a couple of months ago, and this was a narrow vote. Now, initially, they were trying to sell 12.5% of the revenue of their TV rights for the next 20 years. 12.5%, which means 87.5% would stay in their hands, right? But they were voting to sell 12.5% of their TV revenues. And that vote failed. That vote failed with the clubs in the two divisions, which I believe is 36 clubs. And they came back and they're looking to sell about 8% of their TV revenue over the next 20 years for like $1 billion. I mean, this is a really solid deal. Financially, it at least makes sense. You're talking about billions for 8% of the TV rights. And they voted it through. This was voted through to start exploring who they'd want to sell this 7 to 8% revenue of their TV rights. A couple of months ago, it passed narrowly. Right? It was not a sweeping vote from all of the CEOs of the 36 clubs, but they needed 2/3, and they got a 2/3 because a couple of clubs abstained. I don't really understand the politics behind it because I'm just a dude that sits in a room, but at least according to things like the AP News, that's what happened. And they voted it through. And ever since they voted it through, you've been seeing these weird things happen. But if you're wondering, wow, 8% of the revenues, that doesn't sound like a lot. That's exactly what I was thinking as well. So obviously, there's a reason for this. They're not just getting rid of the revenue and short-term gain for long-term loss here. The idea is that they sell 8% of their TV revenues to a foreign firm that's able to help them modernize their marketing infrastructure. That's essentially that's the idea, right? Unless I'm missing something, which is entirely possible, because again, I'm a dude sitting in a room here that's just reading articles. But they're selling 8% of their revenues to a foreign company that they haven't chosen yet that will allow that company to help them modernize their marketing internationally, which is something that apparently these 36 clubs in the Bundesliga and the Zweite Bundesliga were upset about. But the issue that the fans have taken is that there's any foreign investment at all. And what is amazing to me is the fact that in any other league in the world, I don't want to paint that brush. Any other league in the world, there are already a bunch of foreign investors in this position, right? You've got freaking La Liga's playing the Spanish Super Cup in Saudi Arabia, right? I'm pretty sure Serie A is playing actual league matches in the U.S. If that hasn't happened already, it's happening soon, right? There's crazy stuff going on in other leagues, but in the Bundesliga, an 8% sale of the revenues in order to bring in outside marketing help to help them with their international branding, that has caused this uproar. All of those things that you watched earlier in this video is coming from that. And the only reason that I kind of take issue with that is because the Bundesliga is, all these CEOs that are voting on it are appointed by those 50+1 rules, right? I mean, they are running their club under the 50+1 rule set. They are appointed by the fans that own the club, and that's how they ended up there in the first place. And then they're voting on their behalf, and so it's not like these are autonomous, insane people trying to create a super league where then the fans have to show up and be like, well, like, the fans are kind of responsible for putting these people in place in the first place. So I found that that is an inherently interesting part of this, because they're kind of protesting the decisions of their, like, their elected club leader, essentially. But the most interesting thing, because I feel like I've used that phrase a couple of times, and we got to differentiate this, because this, out of all of the interesting things, this is the king of the interesting things, is that the clubs themselves, this advisory board, all the clubs that have their leaders, have said that this investment is not going to do things like change kickoff times. There won't be any Bundesliga matches played outside of the Bundesliga. Like, they've come out and crushed immediately a lot of the things that provide concern, right? They've come out and crushed all of the things that you would be worried about. If you're like, okay, we're selling 8% for international marketing, well, does that mean we're going to have to go where every club's mandated to play a friendly tour in China? No, none of that stuff seems to be allowed, at least with what they're saying, what the club leaders are coming out and saying. They could be lying. People lie like that all the time, but at least they're being proactive and they're coming out and saying, we're not going to change kickoff times. Or more accurately, they're not going to have a say over kickoff times. There won't be matches outside of Germany, right? It's not going to mess with what we've already got going on. We just want to help our international marketing stuff. There's also the fact that even though there's a 50+1 rule, 8% is clearly not a controlling share. Not that there'd be anything to control in the first place of the TV rights in Germany, because this is just revenues. You get 8% of the revenues for this amount of money, and you also help us with our international marketing. That's the deal they're working on. And then there's no voting happening from that 8%. They as long as you don't negotiate something like, well, we got to go play a game in Saudi Arabia into the contract, then they can't just show up and hijack everything. One of the potential companies is a company called CVC, which I believe is in Luxembourg, and they could get a maximum share of up to 8% of the league's commercial rights. Maximum share in order to help market the league abroad. I mean, sometimes you got to bring in somebody from the outside to help you achieve your goals, right? If you're trying to maintain the whole 50+1 thing and you want your clubs to be able to compete in the Champions League and the Europa League, whatever, you got to find a way to compete monetarily with these other leagues that are just having billionaires take over all of their teams, a la the Premier League. And 8% is not a lot to do that. I mean, it's not. And in Germany is already okay with this sort of thing. So I just started looking this stuff up because I was trying to figure out if I'm crazy and even 8% is a huge deal. And when you look at who owns Dortmund, 9.33% is owned by a dude named Bernd Geske. Now, I have no idea who that is. Could just be a lifelong Dortmund fan that like popped up and wanted to own the whole thing, or a piece of the whole thing. That's sick, but that's more than the 8% of the TV revenues that are thrown in. And then 15% is owned by Evonik Industries, which I Googled, and I'll be honest, I've got no idea what they do, right? Direct heating grid. This is nonsense to me. I feel like I'm in like science class again, but their address is in New Jersey. So I mean, it's a foreign investor owns twice as much of Borussia Dortmund as this other foreign investor would own in the TV rights. This is tough for me because I want so badly for everything the Bundesliga does to be perfect and everything the Bundesliga fans do to be perfect, because I have this built up in my mind that like Bundesliga fans are ideal, right? The whole thing is idyllic. But I mean, the owners apparently even just like offered to the fan groups to meet. Fan representatives turned down an invitation last week to meet with league bosses. The invitation was a fig leaf, which I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what that means. It's in quotes on AP. Several fan groups said in a joint statement because it doesn't contain any offer to negotiate. I mean, I feel like the offer to meet is an implicit offer to negotiate, but like fair. And they said the other way, the owners said, we note the refusal of the invited fan representatives, but regret it because readiness for dialogue is always the basis for democratic cooperation. I realize that you want human decency from everybody that owns a club in this situation, but do you realize how desperate Premier League clubs or La Liga clubs or Serie A clubs or even Ligue 1 clubs or freaking Eredivisie clubs, probably, I don't know, are to have somebody who's leading a collection of all of the chairmen saying that, the readiness for dialogue is always the basis for democratic cooperation. Where else in the world of football are you going to hear that sentence from a dude who's actually in power at one of the major clubs? Florentino Perez isn't walking around going, I am here for the readiness of dialogue. Like, they're trying here. They're really trying. And I think the reason the protests have gotten so much steam is, one, it's fun to protest. Two, the Bundesliga fans are really hilariously good at it. I mean, just watch, how can you not just watch this and not want to be a part of it? Like, I'm watching that and I'm like, I want to do that, and I'm not even protesting anything. And three, I feel like there is such there are so many calluses built up in Bundesliga fandom against the idea of foreign investment in any capacity, where this may just be that one example where selling 8% of your TV revenues for a good amount of money over the next 20 years to a foreign investor that's going to help you with your international marketing while not messing with your club schedules at all, that might actually be a good thing. Of course, if I'm wrong, let me know. I'm just a dude in a room. But I wanted to look into it, and the more I looked into it, the less I kind of understood it. Bayern's going to lose the league, though, so that's fun. That's like the good news of the day, unless you're a Bayern fan, I guess.